Now here we have the brand new Profondo Parfum. This is another Acqua di Gio flanker by Giorgio Armani. And of course, a lot of people out there are huge fans of Profondo. Profumo was a really good one, albeit a bit hard to get nowadays. What do I think about the new one? How do I think it stacks up against the rest of the competition? I'm going to be giving you my thoughts in just a little while, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on the brand new Profondo Parfum by Giorgio Armani, part of the Acqua di Gio collection, if you will, I want to start the video off first by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, and of course, if you love smelling your best, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and also please give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So, I have pretty much every Acqua di Gio fragrance that ever came out, probably except for Essenza. Although I've reviewed it, and I've smelled it, and I've worn it, I know it's the highly coveted, ever so elusive flanker because it's been discontinued for some time now. Here we have Profondo. So the thing with the original Profondo is it had this mastic / lentisque oil ingredient. And it just smells very citric, balsamic, a little spicy, resinous ultimately because LME is a resin. And the thing about this one is it adds this note of mimosa, which is a floral ingredient. It's a flower and it actually kind of smells like almond flour. That's F-L-O-U-R, not the flour, but the baking ingredient. So what do I think about this one? Is it going to smell floral? Is it going to smell powdery? It goes without saying that the original Acqua di Gio has lily and also a touch of jasmine in there. So there are some floral tones in the original Acqua di Gio created by Alberto Morillas from the mid-90s. What do I think about this one? I'll tell you what I think of the smell. Let's take a quick look at the presentation first. So in the opening of this fragrance, you will notice that it opens up very bright, fresh, citrusy, very similar to the original Acqua di Gio, and also very similar to Profondo. And I know there's also been Profondo Lights, which I've covered on the channel. So there are some mild differences. Many would consider them to be trivial, but what I'm trying to say here is as soon as it opens up, you're immediately going to think of Acqua di Gio. As a matter of fact, if you smell it in the air, especially in the dry down, you're going to think to yourself, oh, this person is wearing Acqua di Gio. Unless you're discerning enough, because I'm not, unless you can tell, oh, you're wearing this flanker and this batch of this flanker, you know, I can't do that certainly, but it does smell very similar to the original Acqua di Gio. Now, the main difference between this one and the original Profondo is the original Profondo opened up to me a bit more citrusy. This one has a bit of that floral touch in the heart, but I'm also getting like this aromatic vibe from it. You know, it's interesting because a lot of fragrances lately are not afraid to go into that more floral territory. Of course, we're talking about Myself by Yves Saint Laurent. It actually has a lot of orange blossom in it. A lot of fragrances, Hermes fragrances utilize, you know, aromatic ingredients, lavender, clary sage, what have you. So this one kind of has that amplified aromatic presence in the heart, thus making it a bit more modern or youthful, but it still retains that clean, professional, compliment-getting aura that it borrowed from the original. One of the things to be said about the Acqua di Gio franchise in general is their fragrances are really big compliment getters, right? So whether we're talking about the original Acqua di Gio or the Eau de Parfum or any of the various flankers, even Profumo with that amplified patchouli note in the dry down, they all have these compliment-getting tendencies that I personally really enjoy, and it makes it such an easy fragrance to recommend to other people. So here's the drawback / criticism, if you will. I think that this fragrance is redundant for a lot of people, right? So if you don't own any Acqua di Gio, I would say, look, go out there, get the brand new one. I think you're gonna enjoy it. It's a new take on an existing classic masterpiece, if you will. But if you have one or two other fragrances from the franchise, my suggestion to you would be wait until those bottles run out, and then when it's time to repurchase, get the new one, right? So this way you have a nice healthy change of pace and you can try something new, albeit a slight deviation from the previous flankers, but nevertheless something new, right? So I think it smells awesome. It's very familiar to its predecessors, of course, and that's what they were going for. At the end of the day, it's a flanker. It's not a completely brand new fragrance, right? And I think Armani as a brand in general does really well with flankers, whether we're talking about the Code franchise, even with Armani Code Parfum I love that one. Great professional smelling, that smooth, silky tonka bean. And also when we're talking about Emporio Armani, when we're discussing, you know, fragrances like Stronger With You, whether it's absolutely or intensely, you get that original DNA in there, but you can see there's this slight sort of a deviation from the original. And that's exactly what's happening in here. It's not overly floral, but you do get that clean aromatic floral tendency in the heart. It opens it up, makes it fairly non-linear, quite billowy at the same time, and it's a bit less citrusy than Profondo, right? It still retains that LME resin or that mastic oil resin charm. I know I mentioned LME earlier on in this video. I didn't mean to say that, I meant mastic oil or lentisque, but with this fragrance, it has that citrusy balsamic characteristic, but at the end of the day, it has those aromatic properties in it that I really enjoy. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, well, it's a flanker, so you have to take that for what it's worth. And overall smell, incredibly mass appealing. You will get compliments wearing this one. Longevity on this one was a solid 7 hours on skin. Projection at an arm's length for the first hour of application. Fairly diffusive in the opening. This one became an elbow's length scent right around hour 5, skin scent right around hour 7. It's all going to be contingent upon your skin chemistry, of course. Versatility on this one, it's masculine leaning. Of course, if you're familiar with Acqua di Gio, it's been around for several decades now, nearly 3 decades. So, you know, you're going to be expecting it to be that characteristic, you know, masculine smell. Also worth mentioning that this is a great dressed up or dressed down fragrance. And I think this one would work really well in the autumn, as long as it's not too cold, right? Depending on where you live in the world, I think this is great for a climate controlled environment. And I think this would work really well in a hotter climate. I just probably wouldn't wear this one in the winter. That's when you bring out Armani Code or Stronger With You or some of these other fragrances. And as far as the presentation is concerned, I like the blue. I like the color on it. Very simple change, but it still has that elegant, timeless presentation of the original Acqua di Gio. My final verdict on this fragrance is... My final verdict on this fragrance is it's a great fragrance. I personally enjoy it. I think it's a solid flanker to the original, albeit a bit more on the floral aromatic side of things, but that might be your thing. Go out there, try it for yourself. Hopefully you love it. Hopefully you enjoy it. And I think it's a flanker worth checking out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you took something of value from this video. And if you did, please do consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe, hitting the bell, and giving this video a thumbs up. It would really mean a lot to me. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow with a new episode. Bye.